Hare Krishna. Happy Janmastami. Today we're going to look at the appearance of Lord Sri Krishna. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharne Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskachati. So we're going to look at how Krishna appears in the world. Krishna lives eternally in the spiritual world. It is said that he never takes one step outside Vrindavan. But there are rebellious souls who come to the material world for the sake of trying to enjoy separately from Krishna. Krishna manifests this material world by glancing at the illusory energy and thus manifesting the five great elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, or matter in a solid form, matter in a gaseous form, in a liquid form, radiant energy. He manifests the three modes of material nature, and he breathes out universes. Into each of these universes, he expands himself. Lying down in the water in half the universe. From his navel comes a lotus flower. On the lotus flower is Brahma. Brahma creates all of the planets and all of the species from seeds that are within the stem of the lotus flower. And thus we have the unlimited planets of the spiritual world and the material world. In one of the smallest of these material universes, we have our planet Earth. Earth is described as the lowest of the middle planets in this universe. It's right on the cusp. I think, a person who just becomes middle class. And on this Earth planet, 5,000 years ago, there were demons who were acting like they were proper government officials, but actually their mood was exploitation. Their mood was to deny the existence of God. Of course, this phenomena happens over and over again on this planet. Certainly in our modern history, we can also think of many demons who took roles as heads of governments on the earth. But that's not the desire of the Lord. The Lord desires that even in this material world, that all the leading governors of all of the different countries and counties and cities be devotees of the Lord. So when the heads of state are actually demons, the earth herself, who is a deity, Bhumi, she's the wife of the Lord. She took the form of a cow and she went to see Lord Brahma. This is what we are supposed to do. When we have some difficulty in executing our service, Bhumi is a servant of the Lord, as are the heads of all the planets. And when she cannot properly execute her service, she goes to her authority. So in this case, she went to Lord Brahma and she said, "My dear Lord Brahma, I don't know what to do. The people who are supposed to be kshatriyas, who are supposed to be running the government, who are supposed to be managing the planet, are actually demons."
Yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata abhutyanam adharmasya tadatmanam sujamaham.
Lord Brahma told her that whenever there is a decline in religious practice and a predominant rise of irreligion, the Lord will come. We can now chant this verse together.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Yada yada hi dharmasya
Everyone.
Yada yada hi dharmasya
glanir bhavati bharata
glanir bhavati bharata
abhyutanam adharmasya
abhyutanam adharmasya
tadatmanam srijamyaham.
tadatmanam srijamyaham.
So Lord Brahma gathered together all of the great demigods for the sake of healing this little tiny earth planet. He started to meditate on the Supreme Lord, who is the director of the universe. And the demigods started to chant the Purusha Shukta prayers.
Om Sahasrashirha Purushaha Sahasrakshas Sahasrapat Sabhuvim Vishwato Vritva Atyadishtadhashangulam.
The Supreme Lord, in the form of the universe, has 1,000 heads, 1,000 eyes, and 1,000 feet, where he contains all the living entities. Having pervaded the universe completely to give it existence, being independent, he extended himself beyond it by 10 fingers.
Purusha yevedagam sarvam yadbhutam yachabhavyam utavratattvasya shanaha yadannenatirohati.
The universes, past, present, and future, are but manifestations of the Supreme, who expands himself as the Purusha. He is the Lord of immortality, but has manifest himself as the Purusha in the universe so that the jivas might enjoy their material fruits.
Yetavanasya mahima atodhyayadischa purushaha padosya vishwabhutani tripadasya amritam divi.
The past, present, and future universes are manifestations of the Lord's powers, but the Lord himself is much greater than his powers. The material creation has only 1/4 of his powers, and the eternal nature in the spiritual sky displays 3/4 of his opulences.
Tripadurtva udait purushaha padosyeha bhavat punaha tato vishvam vyakramate sasananasane abhi.
The 3/4 section of the Lord's energy transcends the material portion, which only displays 1/4 of his energy. The Lord in that 1/4 portion manifests the universe again, as he has done repeatedly before. The Lord of the 1/4 portion began the work of creation by going all around, taking the form of all animate and inanimate objects.
Tasmad virada jayata virajo adhipurushaha sajato atyarichyata paschat bhumimatho puraha.
From that Lord, the Virat, or universe, was born. And in that Virat Purusha, Paramatma of the universe was born. Having appeared, the Virat Purusha grew and produced the earth and the bodies of the jivas.
Brahmanosya mukhamasit bahurajanyah kritaha guru tadasya yadvaishyaha padvyagam shudro ajayata.
From the face came the Brahmanas, from the 2 arms of Kshatriyas came into being. From the thighs of the Virat Purusha came the Vaishyas, and from his feet the Shudras were born.
Chandrama manaso jataha chaksho suryo ajayata mukharindraschagnischa pranad vayurajayata.
The moon was born from his mind, and the sun was born from his 2 eyes. From his mouth was born Indra and Agni, and from his breath Vayu was born. So the demigods chanted the Purusha Sukta. Brahma was in meditation, but they heard no reply. Many times it's like that. We may have some difficulty in our lives. We go to the Lord, asking him to help us with our difficulty. We meditate, we chant, we pray, and we might hear no reply. The demigods didn't see the Lord, but eventually the Lord appeared within the heart of Brahma and told the demigods, please go to earth as human beings and prepare for my arrival, because I will come to kill these demons and to protect the devotees.
Paritrāṇāya sadhunāṃ vināṣāya ca duṣkritāṃ dharma samasthapanārthāya sambhavāmi yuge yuge.
And we can put it together.
Paritrāṇāya sadhūnām vināṣāya ca duṣkritāṃ dharma samsthapanarthāya sambhavāmi yuge yuge. Paritrāṇāya sadhūnām
Paritrāṇāya sadhūnām
vināṣāya ca duṣkritāṃ
Vināṣāya ca duṣkritam
dharma samsthapanarthāya
Dharma samsthapanarthāya
sambhavāmi yuge yuge.
Sambhavāmi yuge yuge.
So, Krishna's elders entered the world. And one was, of course, Vasudeva. Vasudeva entered the world. Now, I'd like us to think very clearly about this. Demigods go to the Lord asking him to help. He says, yes, I will come. I will take care of it. Please go in the world and prepare for me. So the demigods come, and now we're going to the marriage of Devaki and Vasudeva. So let's assume that Vasudeva has altogether 16 wives, and he was definitely already married to some of them by this point. Let's assume he was at least 20, 25 years old. So this means at least that number of years had passed between the time that the demigods went to the Lord and the time of this marriage. So it was the custom that when the young bride was going to the house of her new husband, that some relative of hers would accompany her so that she wouldn't feel too uncomfortable. And this time her cousin brother Kamsa was driving the chariot for Devaki to go to Vasudeva's house. Kamsa was a demon. He was one of these demons that Mother Bhumi had complained about. And even though he came from a good family, he had allied himself with many other demons of a similar mentality. So it's interesting. His father was a great devotee here. His cousin sister Devaki is such a great devotee. But he himself was a demon. So this happens, that sometimes within the same family, there are pure devotees and there are great demons. So he was there taking Vasudeva and Devaki to their new home when there was a voice in the sky saying, "You fool! You are driving this chariot of your sister and brother-in-law, but you do not know that the 8th child of your sister will kill you." Immediately, Kamsa decided that he would kill Devaki. This is a typical response of a conditioned soul. When we feel threatened, we may just respond, right? We may do that. Somebody says something that we think is insulting, and we just respond without thinking. Someone sends us an email that upsets us, or a text message, and we just respond. So Kamsa just responded. I mean, this is very useful if a wild dog or a tiger is chasing you. But in most of our interactions, when our mind decides, I'm in danger, I have to respond immediately. And so Kamsa was like this. I'm in danger, I'm in danger. It's urgent, it's urgent. It's an urgent crisis. Of course, there wasn't any urgent crisis. His cousin sister was just sitting on the chariot. But his mind took these words from the sky voice and made it into an urgent crisis, such that he wanted to kill Devaki. So then Vasudeva started to instruct Kamsa. And it's so nice, these instructions from Vasudeva about the nature of the soul, about how the fact that everyone is going to die and that we are eternal. We are simply moving from one body to another. It's so nice what Srila Prabhupada writes in Krishna book regarding this situation. He says, a saintly person can tolerate all kinds of miserable conditions of life. A learned man can discharge his duties without awaiting favorable circumstances. That's important. A heinous person like Kamsa can act in any sinful way, and a devotee can sacrifice everything to satisfy the personality of God. Vasudeva tries speaking philosophy to Kamsa, but it doesn't work very well. Kamsa is not very much affected by philosophy. This is the general situation when a person is very upset, and especially when a person feels threatened and they become very reactive. They may, you can speak to them. If you've ever tried to give philosophical advice to a frightened, reactive person, you'll find that they're not usually open to that advice. And the same is true, of course, for ourselves. When we are in an emotionally reactive situation, we actually can become angry when somebody tries to speak philosophy to us. So Vasudeva finally says, all right, look, I'll give you all my children, and you can do with them as you like. He said, we don't have any children yet. We just got married. Sometimes you see a couple and, oh, do you have children? Oh, we only got married a month ago. So he said, this is our wedding day today. We just got married. Maybe we won't even have children, but I'll bring all of them to you. So that pacified Kamsa. Kamsa wasn't pacified by philosophical discourse. He was pacified by an external material arrangement. So when our minds are overwhelmed by fear, attachment, fear, and anger, we cannot hear philosophy. Therefore, although attachment, fear, and anger will enter the mind, we have to allow it to flow through like a river flowing into the ocean that doesn't become disturbed, and not grab onto this attachment, fear, and anger and have it control us. We don't repress it. That has its own problems, but we remain detached from it. Otherwise, philosophy will not be helpful to us. We will be striving for some solution of material adjustment and power. Anyway, Kamsa believed Vasudeva. He said, all right, you're a truthful man. And indeed, Vasudeva brought him his first child. And Kamsa said, well, I don't need to take this child. I'm only in danger from the 8th child. You can take him back. But Vasudeva was thinking, I really can't trust a demon like Kamsa. Then Narada Muni comes and stirs things up. He says, the demigods have been talking to Lord Vishnu about you. People like that, they go and stir things up behind the scene. So there's people like that in Krishna Lila, like Narada Muni, but he's doing this out of love for Krishna. So he's saying, the demigods have been talking to Lord Vishnu about you. And Vishnu told the demigods to appear on the earth ahead of him. So you've got a lot of enemies taking birth. And any of these children of Vasudeva might be Vishnu. In fact, Narada tells him, in your previous life, you were a demon by the name Kalanimi. That's who's riding on the lion in this picture. And he said, at that time, Vishnu killed you. And so, he's going to do it again. He killed you once before. He's going to do it again. He's your enemy. So Kamsa again becomes just emotionally reactive, and he imprisons Vasudeva and Devaki. He sends Vasudeva and Devaki to jail against the advice of most of his ministers and friends. They were just shocked that he had sent Vasudeva and Devaki to jail. And there, you would think that Vasudeva and Devaki would not want to have any children in jail, but they wanted to facilitate the Lord's pastimes. They wanted to facilitate the Lord's appearance. And so because they wanted to facilitate the Lord's appearance, therefore they were having one child after another in prison. And of course, Kamsa was killing these children one after another. Now, there's a story behind this, that in his previous life, Kalanimi was the son of Hiranyakashipu. And these boys were the sons of Kalanimi. So these 6 children that Kamsa killed were actually his own sons in a previous life. And they had done austerities to please Lord Brahma without the permission of their grandfather Hiranyakashipu. What are they called today? A narcissist. Everything has to go through me. I have to approve everything. So because Hiranyakashipu didn't approve their austerities, he cursed them. He said, in your next life, you'll be killed by your own father. So that was also cursing the father, of course. This is the problem with material relationships we have in this world. You know, we think this is my loving father, this is my loving child, but next life, we may be murdered by the same person. Then metaphorically, it's explained that these six children were actually personified forms of lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, and madness. And that Devaki's fear of material association, who's personified by Kamsa, allowed her to become free of all of these material anarthas. All of these material entanglements were destroyed by her fear of Kamsa. And then the first expansion of the Lord, Baladev, Sesha, appeared in the womb of Devaki to prepare a suitable atmosphere for the Lord to come. So Sesha, Ananta, Balaram acts as the Lord's bed, as the Lord's throne, as the Lord's paraphernalia. So therefore he came to make a suitable place for the Lord to come. Now at the same time, Vasudeva had sent all of his other wives to Vrindavan, because after all, he and Devaki were imprisoned. He didn't want the other wives to be in prison, the other 15 wives to be in prison. So he had sent them to Vrindavan, but they would visit each other. So Rohini was also pregnant at that time with Vasudeva's child. But in order to save Balaram, Yogamaya transferred Balaram to the womb of Rohini. So the child that was originally being carried by Rohini gave up his body, and the child got transferred from the womb of Devaki, the womb of Rohini, to take birth as her son, Balaram. So he is the son of Vasudeva, and he's considered the son of both Yasoda and Rohini. And then Yogamaya entered the womb of Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj's wife, in Vrindavan. Now, Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva are half brothers. They have the same father, and Vasudeva has a Kshatriya mother, and Nanda Maharaj has a Vaishya mother. So it was very appropriate that Vasudeva put so many of his wives in the care of his half brother. And said Yogamaya enters the womb of Nanda Maharaj's wife, Yasoda. Nanda and Yasoda were older. Nanda was older than Vasudeva, and they had been trying to have a child for quite some time, but she had not conceived. So they were very, very excited that she was pregnant. And here's Yogamaya entering the womb of Yasoda in Gokula in Vrindavan. So then everyone understood that Devaki had had a miscarriage, and that was counted as her 7th child. Then Krishna enters the mind of Vasudeva. Sometimes in our spiritual life, we really feel that we're enlivened with Krishna consciousness. So imagine if Krishna really entered your mind, and from there, he transfers to the mind of Devaki, and he transfers then to the womb of Devaki. When the Supreme Lord was in the womb of Devaki, it said that she looked very beautiful. I mean, extraordinary. You know, God is the most beautiful. So of course, Krishna is in everyone's heart, but when God personally is coming within one's womb, how beautiful one would look. But it said because she was in prison, she looked like a suppressed fire or like misused education. Because she was so beautiful, Kamsa could understand, oh, this is the 8th child, this is Vishnu. But he thought, well, I don't want to kill a pregnant woman. He thought that I'd lose all my followers if I did that. He thought, let me wait till she gives birth and then I'll kill the child. In the meantime, the demigods, they all came to offer prayers to the Lord in the womb of Devi. In their prayers, they write about the great ocean of material life and material attachments, and how the lotus feet of the Lord are a boat that can help us cross this ocean of material attachments and attain to Shri Krishna on the other side. And how interesting it is that although the saintly persons use the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord to cross to the other side, the boat always remains on this side. So how is that? And that is because this boat, that is the metaphorical boat, that is actually Krishna's lotus feet. As soon as we get close to the boat, the demigods are praying. As soon as we approach the boat, we don't even have to get in the boat. As soon as we approach the boat of Krishna's lotus feet, a miracle happens. Like Srila Prabhupada says, we take one step towards Krishna, he takes 10 steps towards us. So as soon as we approach the boat, this huge ocean of all of our attachments, all of our material desires, all of our problems, all of our struggle with the mind becomes reduced to such a small puddle that we can very easily cross over it. Then in the world, there was peace and prosperity everywhere, and within the minds of everyone, there were signs of good fortune. The rivers were full. The lakes were decorated with lotus flowers. Birds were singing with sweet voices. The wind was carrying the aroma of different flowers. The sensation of bodily touch was very pleasing. The Brahmanas' minds became full of joy because they could hear transcendental vibrations in the sky proclaiming the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Sarvesham swastir bhavatu, Sarvesham shantir bhavatu, Sarvesham purnam bhavatu, Sarvesham mangalam bhavatu.
Then at midnight, in the darkness of night, on the 8th day of the moon, the Lord appeared with 4 arms, carrying his conch, disc, club, and lotus, fully decorated with a full head of hair. Devaki and Vasudeva were told by Krishna that they had in their previous lives performed austerities for thousands of years in order to have Krishna as their son. Now Krishna says, I am appearing before you for the 3rd time. Vasudeva and Devaki were overwhelmed with emotion. Finally, after thousands of years of austerities, they finally have Krishna as their son. But then Devaki says, if Kamsa sees you, he'll kill you like he killed your brothers. Can you make yourself look like an ordinary baby? Krishna said, your friend Yasoda in Vrindavan has just given birth to a girl. Take me there and exchange me. To wait thousands of years to have Krishna as your son, and then to lose him. Vasudeva and Devaki offered prayers to the Lord. But in parental love, even knowing that he was God, they feared for his safety. So they followed his instructions. They saw the guards fell asleep and the doors opened. Devaki was thinking, my husband has to take Krishna away. Will I ever see him again? Taking Krishna across the high Yamuna in the storm, Vasudeva finally goes to the house of his half-brother and his friend. And there, without anyone seeing, he exchanges the boy and the girl. And one could ask, why would Vasudeva put his friend's daughter into difficulty? But he had so much love for Krishna and so much faith in the instructions of Krishna that he did so. Vasudeva also cheated Kamsa, whom he had told that he would bring all his children. He considered his devotion to Krishna more important than keeping his word. But how must Vasudeva have felt when he put down his darling Krishna? Devaki's back in the prison, wondering where her husband's gone. And Vasudeva is putting down little Krishna and taking the girl back across the raging Yamuna in the storm and back into the prison where all of the shackles go back on them, the guards wake back up, the doors close, and the baby cries, and Kamsa hears, Devaki's 8th child is born. He goes in the middle of the night to the prison cell, grabs the child from Devaki's hand. And Devaki says, it's a girl. You are not to be killed by any girl. Please spare her life. She can grow up and marry your son. Don't kill her. Kamsa was so cruel and unthinking and motivated by his own anger and attachment. He takes the child and goes to smash her against the wall. At which point the child manifests as Durga. Says, you fool! Child who will kill you has already been born somewhere else. Do not be so cruel to your poor sister. And then she enters into the heavenly planets. He's worshipped all over the world. Meanwhile, while Vasudeva and Devaki have now lost Yasoda's daughter and their own son, across the river in Vrindavan, there's a beautiful festival going on for the appearance of Sri Krishna. Finally, Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda have a child. And what a child! The Supreme Lord himself in his most intimate aspect. They celebrate. And then Krishna grows up in Vrindavan. When he's a little child, He displays so many funny pastimes, like being dragged around the mud and clay by the calves. And then he stands up and grabs a woman's sari and he looks and sees, oh, it's not my mother, and he cries.
Hey Govinda, hey Gopala,
Hey Govinda,
hey Gopala,
Hey Govinda,
hey Gopala,
Hey Govinda,
hey Gopala,
Hey Govinda.
hey Gopala.
And thus Krishna grows up in Vrindavan, performs so many wonderful pastimes with the cowherd boys and the gopis. So this world is always overcome by irreligion, and therefore the Lord appears again and again, himself, his representative, or as his holy name.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge.
I hope you are all relishing this retelling of the story of Krishna's appearance. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, who brought Krishna book to the world in 1970, to all the cultures and peoples of the world, who brought the glories of Krishna philosophically in terms of his pastimes, so that we could all develop love for him and enter into his pastimes within his own abode. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Krishna Janmastami ki jai. Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.